Hello, so we got the Gemini 3.1 Pro, which is decisively smashing everything else out there. And this is not like other releases, where you just put it somewhere in the middle, maybe, and then you try to figure out the value proposition. No, this one is going straight to the top and by a lot. And we will be trying it out as well. So we see that it's leading Humanities Last Exam and by a lot, Arc AGI, Abstract Reasoning Puzzles, 77%, and I guess the second place would be Opus 4.6, right? So it's not that dominant if we consider Opus 2, but like just consider the previous version, 31%. Another interesting one is that when going neck and neck against the best ones, Opus 4.6 and GPT 5.3 codecs, it's actually leading in the terminals to harness. Basically good at coding, okay? And not just any version of these, but the max version and the extra high. So those are significantly more expensive and take longer too. And based on other benchmarks, it's the best coder as well. Although, the new codex is still putting up a fight. It's actually interesting that they are including the GDP of all, because what most like to do, that they leave out ones that don't favor them as much. And I kind of wonder why they are scoring a little bit worse here, because maybe I shouldn't theorize, but apparently it was said that Claude is so good at making money because it does it by any means. And maybe Gemini is not doing that. And apparently good at tool use and long context too, but these are almost solved. When we go on artificial analysis, we see that it's a top place, and by a lot. Both in general intelligence and coding, but agenticness-wise, not as clear. Apparently it's on the level of Kimi, K 2.5, at least according to their findings. Also, for sake of completeness, I probably should mention that Google seems to be a little bit behind when it comes to their platforms. So Gemini CLI and Anti-Gravity seem to be worse than just using like Codex and Claude CLI. Also a very interesting metric that it scores 30 on the Omniscience Index, which basically measures knowledge, reliability, and hallucination. It rewards correct answers and penalizes hallucinations. And no penalty for refusing to answer. Right. I suspect this can be game 2, but this is also good, because what really gets you down in longer projects, or something that cannot be wrong, is I think something that is wrong. But also effectively, you don't see it. You can't even like prompt for it. You would need such an insane sample size, and it really depends on the situation. So not like I can write one prompt here and say like, oh yeah, it definitely hallucinates less. But it's still not the exact same thing as intelligence, because we see GPT 5.2 codex extra high at -6, while the flash is at 8. And by the way, if they release the Gemini 3.1 flash at about the same level they released the previous flash, meaning at like 55-ish, right? It was like a few points worse for a lot cheaper. Then it's just going to be a slaughter. It's a slaughter already. So just look at this. So we have Gemini 3.1 Pro, and anything above it makes no sense. Even the GPT 5.3 codex on extra high does not make sense compared to the Gemini 3.1 Pro. Right? It also would spend way more on thinking. And I'm not sure what would make sense, truly. Because even if we start moving down, you would have to ask yourself, like, would you pay a bit of premium for the Gemini 3.5 Pro? Most likely you would, right? And then you have this. Again, you would. This is kind of on the level of the Minimax M 2.5. So it's definitely a bit of a question, right? I don't think you would use the Gemini 3 Flash over it. I'm not even sure about Kimi here. I mean, it's certainly like half the price, but like, I don't know. think like Minimax M 2.5 and Mimo V2 Flash would be the choices if you didn't want to go with Gemini 3.1. Of course, this assuming that you are paying directly. It depends on how much you value intelligence. Because if you just want agenticness, apparently, then you still have more, other choices. Maybe like Kimi or GLM5 would make more of a sense. But if you care about intelligence, then I really fail to see, like, would you really go with Cloud Opus here? Apparently, Gemini 3.1 can one-shot Windows. That's nice. Yeah, well, as far as I know, this just looks exactly like Windows. Well, there were some bugs here, right? We saw that, yeah. It was hanging out. But that might be just a Windows experience. Last time I used it. So it's hard to say if it's making mistakes or just Windows sucks. Okay. This is just from one prompt. Okay. Oh, the calendar switching didn't work. But it is a very impressive one, no doubt. And by the way, worth saying that if you want to try it out, then you can do so. In the Gemini chat, you can select the Pro. And also do so in the AI Studio. So this is updated. Although, as of I'm recording this, anti-gravity and the Gemini CLI is not updated. And apparently, Gemini 3.1 can make in one shot No Man's Sky like space game. Well, the graphics could be better, but it does seem to work, right? Can you imagine like spending like months, literal months, like we can even shoot, just making a game like this? It's gonna take you months, possibly more, most likely more. I mean, these kind of games are usually made by at least small teams or possibly bigger teams. Of course, the graphics kind of suck now, but that can be improved. And then just AI comes in and just one shots a better version of your game that you have currently. I'm not sure how I feel about this, because while it's kind of cool, it's also could somewhat discourage me from working on longer tanks. Because like, why bother like setting out for like a month-long project? It's gonna be an AI that's gonna come out, maybe this one, that can one-shot it. And apparently, this is the showcase of the capability, how good of an SVG they can make. Gemini 3.1 Pro versus Cloud Opus. Well, that looks like a actual Ferrari. That is the prompt versus just probably a car-looking thing with a Ferrari written on it. But also the funny part is that Cloud Opus was literally the best model if you're not considering Codex 5.3 but that is only for coding or mainly for coding. But it was like top 2 at least. So big jump. I found another one. So we got a Pelican here on the left, Gemini 3 Pro versus 3.1 Pro versus Cloud Opus 4.6 on the right. Yeah, it's a big improvement. I mean, that logo on, I'm calling it a logo, just image on the left, you might just see used in production. The right one, not so much. We got more. So, yeah, that is a big difference. Just making this yourself, it's gonna take fairly long. Okay. So the left ones are possibly not prod worthy or very basic. The right ones definitely are. Right. We don't see the Pelican pedal. Okay, this one is definitely fucking it up. So these are good tests, right? It's good too. Okay. The right one is kind of stylish too, so you gotta give it for that, right? Generate an animated SVG of an ostrich on roller skates, right? But the right one is very stylish. Usually you see very basic looking ones like the left one. Okay, again, the right one is very stylish. Although, this could be a bit of a flaw, because if you get this, and the style doesn't match, so you might say like, oh yeah, the stylishness is so good, but like, if you want to connect like 100 different things, and they all have their own stylishness, own style, that's not that good. Of course, you need to specify it. What the fuck is this? Generate an animated 4x3 SVG of a Dashon driving a stretch limousine. Okay. So this is really putting it to the test. But the right one is definitely nailing it a lot more. Okay. And by the way, I tried to use the builder. It either doesn't work or it just takes too long. The first attempt took like 40 minutes and we didn't make that much of a progress. So my recommendation, slightly off topic, that if you want to make something bigger, you want to do it properly and use an IDE and use it locally, not on a website. Otherwise, we are in a bit of a pickle because I'm not even sure what kind of hard questions I can ask here. Because we saw the benchmarks, so I'm asking Gemini 3.1 Pro for questions to ask itself, which is something it most likely can answer. So let's just pivot to what to do. And Gemini 3.1 Pro completely dominates Claude, Sonnet, and Opus, and the GPT 5.3 and 5.2. So it's really hard to make that choice. I would argue, just based on what we have right now, you can still make the argument for a Codex with the GPT 5.3 because they have the double quota. So that is an option, no doubt. And it's currently not even shown. But even based on their numbers, GPT 5.3 Codex is a serious contender. Otherwise, the Chinese models could be excellent budget options. Otherwise, I'm not sure what to expect here. Because GPT 5.3 Codex came out rather recently, and so did the Claude 4.6 Sonnet and Opus. So I guess GPT 5.3 non-Codex version is going to come out, which might be closer to the Gemini 3.1 Pro. So I guess we'll see that. And apparently DeepSeek 4 is coming out. So that is something to watch out for. But Minimax, Kimi, and Qwen, and GLM all very recently updated their models. So these are the new models, and apparently somebody in line with the Chinese New Year that has no meaning to me, but apparently that was the time to get at your new model. So unless there's going to be a surprise contender, it's looking pretty damn dominant for Gemini 3.1 Pro. And especially it's going to look dominant if they release the Gemini 3 Flash, Gemini 3.1 Flash. I'm not sure where, but even if they released it somewhere on the second place, I mean, that would even compromise the Chinese models largely. But I guess we'll see. But currently, the Gemini 3 Flash is a bit weakish. I mean, you can use it, but there are better models out there. So it would not surprise me if they release a new one. So that is about it. My random thoughts are that maybe intelligence will not be as relevant if we just keep going up and up. So you might not need the top intelligence for what you're doing. But also, if intelligence is just so OP, just to take the other side of the coin, then do you even go for long-term projects? Because it can be a little disheartening. Like you work on something and like, is it even something to go for? Like maybe like months or years long projects here? Like especially like thinking in years here. Are you gonna go for it? But even months, like you might be just better off just to go for something that you can prompt out in days and wait for a better model, if even that is relevant. I guess hashtag developer existential crisis.